we are mixing trashy with divine. When you mix trashy and divine, you get trashy. LECRAE, quit, bro. Hang on you. I'm gonna be 100. Quit, bro, right now, because you are not heading down a road. You are on a road, because we see this stuff happening year after year. It seems like the envelope is being pushed further and further away. And just to keep it 100, the Bible says, if you are friends with the world, you're enemies of God. And when I speak of the world, I'm not merely speaking of people. I'm speaking of a system, a culture, a mindset. I'm speaking of us partaking or being mimicking the things that are in the world. LECRAE, I pray you turn back to your first love completely, not partially. Real quick, I wasn't gonna even do this, but dealing with LECRAE and his new clothing line, Righteous and Ratchet, I understand why he called it that now. See, the topic of this is called Friend of the World, and I believe that he's been battling with this for years upon years, and we are just seeing it blossom, or it has already been blossomed, but now it's at full bloom now. And the Righteous and Ratchet t-shirts that we see, he says on one shirt that he could quote, well, basically you could quote Cardi and Corinthians. But then you look at Corinthians chapter 5, and let's see what Corinthians chapter 5 says. Corinthians chapter 5, it says, do you not judge those who are within the church, but those who are outside God judges? Remove the wicked man from among yourselves. So basically, we are to judge those who are inside the church. That's what Paul is telling the church at Corinth. And the reason why we are to judge them, because he was talking about a man being a drunkard, an idolater, basically a friend of the world, who's still doing worldly stuff, but has brought it into the church. And then you look at what Cardi says, and like I say, I never listened to music, so I had to go Google some stuff. And the one that pops up is WAP. We all know what that stands for now. Wet private parts, basically. And I wouldn't read those lyrics on here, even though they wouldn't even ban me, because I guess that's what's being pushed. Then we have Kendrick Lamar being able to quote him too. And let me see what he said on Kendrick. It's on here. We can quote Kendrick and Corinthians. Why it's called Righteous and Ratchet. Being able to mirror the two together, or try to mix the two, or mixing the oil and water together. And you know they don't coexist together. But he's been doing it for so long, and hasn't dealt with the internal war, so he keeps succumbing to the battle that's going on within him. I grew up where I grew up. I actually came to the faith, and he was one of the first guys I listened to as far as Christian rap. I had the CDs, and then I began to see, like I say, nobody's perfect, but you are a public figure, and you are mixing and merging the sacred and the profane. And by doing that, you are, especially babes in Christ, you are poisoning them. I was talking to a guy, and he told me this. He said he was talking to a supposed to be believer, and the believer was talking to him about Christ, and he was really paying attention to the guy. But then the guy began to cuss, and he said he had an internal war going on inside of him. One was, is this guy a fraud? And the second one was, so when I become a Christian, I can cuss too, because the guy was a non-believer. or is an unbeliever. So he said the internal battle was, since is this guy a fraud, or when you become a Christian, you can still cuss. While LECRAE having this righteous and ratchet, you are trying to do the impossible. You are trying to make light and darkness coexist at the same time. You are trying to make the sacred and the profane somehow be sacred, when that's an oxymoron. That's impossible to do. So let's just look at this and I'm out your way. What does righteous mean? Righteous means it's an act in according with divine or moral law, free from guilt or sin, morally right or justified. And what does ratchet mean? Calling someone ratchet has historically meant you think they have no class and lack a proper upbringing, but they do not know it, i.e., trashy. So you have trashy and you have divine. So we are mixing trashy with divine. When you mix trashy and divine, you get trashy. LECRAE, quit, bro. Hang on you. I'm gonna be 100. Quit, bro, right now, because you are not heading down a road. You are on a road, because we see this stuff happening year after year. It seems like the envelope is being pushed further and further away. And just to keep it 100, the Bible says if you are friends with the world, you're enemies of God. And when I speak of the world, I'm not merely speaking of people. I'm speaking of a system, a culture, a mindset. I'm speaking of us partaking or being mimicking the things that are in the world. LECRAE, I pray you turn back to your first love completely, not partially. Please.